knowledge is power. That's what we've continuously heard throughout our lives, from Francis Bacon to Sun Tzu to Power Honey PTA presidents. But in recent days, some sociologists have pointed out that the opposite might also be true, that sometimes there are just some things that are better not knowing. Lindsay McGoey coined the term strategic ignorance to refer to the deliberate attempt to avoid unsettling information that could harm you. On a personal level, this is you intentionally not going into the kitchen because there's a chance the dishwasher is done and then you have to empty it. You don't want to know if it's done washing or not. Then you go to the local sushiria with your mom and you start to wonder if the cooks actually wash their hands after the funny business in the toilet. But you don't ask them because you don't want to know if you're eating nigiri with brown wasabi. Ignorance is bliss. Another reason that strategic ignorance is useful is to deny responsibility in the aftermath of a disaster. This was the case for French pharmaceutical company Sanofi Aventis. They wanted their newly developed drug Ketek approved, so they turned to a line of doctors to conduct clinical trials, including one Anne Kirkman Campbell. She then went on to enroll 400 volunteers, in turn getting FDA approval. But after several real patients died as a result of liver damage caused by Ketek, it was found that Kirkman Campbell made up most of her volunteers, thereby falsifying data to get around the FDA. During the whole process, Sanofi Aventis continuously ignored red flag after red flag in order to continue the sale and plead ignorance when it eventually failed, thereby denying responsibility. But is it not your responsibility to check the safety of your own produit? Mais merde, il n'y a aucun moyen qu'on puisse savoir. The logic was, if Sanofi Aventis did not know what was going on in the clinical trial, they couldn't be blamed for the incident. Instead, they could defer the accountability to the testing doctors. Dana, Weber and Kwang argues that this ignorance creates a moral wiggle room when making decisions that influence other people. Imagine you're standing in a socially constructed space with an area of what you perceive as acceptable behavior and what you perceive as unacceptable behavior, with thin lines dividing the two. You like to sleep around a lot, and that's totally okay in your head.
You've got mail.
Dear Mr. John, it is with a heavy heart that I must convey to thee troubling news which doth weigh upon my conscience with a burden too great to bear in silence. Upon reflection of our tryst of passion, I fear that thou mayest have been afflicted with an ailment of a most dire nature. It pains me to utter such words, but there exists a possibility, however slight, that thou hast contracted the dreaded malady known as herpes from our nocturnal dalliance.
Now, you have just received news that you might have been blessed with an STD from your pillow fighting partner last week. In your mind, you worry a bit, and you decide that you definitely don't want to be tested for herpes, because if a test does confirm that you caught it, the walls close in and you would feel really bad continuing with your one night stands. There is no room for wiggling. So, you'd rather not know. If you prevent yourself from getting this piece of knowledge, you still feel like it's okay to sleep around with people. You give yourself the benefit of the doubt. Now there's room for wiggling. In 2011, Knudsen proposed a model of strategic ignorance. The inner circle actualized describes the current situation you find yourself in, while these dotted walls signify different potential directions for the situation to develop to. The walls are open because these are areas that you want to go to, while the area destructive potentialities are topics that you're actively trying to avoid because it could be harmful to you. It is this blocked wall that describes the processes of inattentiveness, i.e. the process of deliberately blocking out information. Say that you're chilling with your friend on the couch, 6 feet apart of course. You talk about life and family and feelings. This situation has a lot of potential directions to go. You could ask him, has your cool cousin Eddie started his hot sauce business yet? Or, I dig your mom's working morale. Or, is your sister still doing cheerleading? There are a lot of pleasant directions that you could go. But if you suddenly ask him about his grandma whom you know is sick and dying, he will go into a long emotional monologue and you will feel sad hearing all of this. By asking this question, you know you're putting yourself in a worse situation. Him talking about his expiring memoir is the destructive potential that you strategically ignore. So at first glance, it seems we're looking at a delicate dance between knowledge is power and ignorance is bliss. but both can be simultaneously true. Some things you're just dying to know, and some things you're desperately trying to dodge knowing so you can avoid emptying the dishwasher. Alas, as Michael Tausig famously said, knowing what not to know is one of the most indispensable forms of social and political knowledge.